locally flooded, locally funded flood control projects. Ang sabi po ng Pangulo sa akin, at sinabi din niya po ito sa Kongreso na, teka, stop muna tayo. Pero hindi po ibig sabihin nun na wala po tayong gagawin. No? In the next few weeks po, meron tayong i-implement na malaking flood mitigation program together with other agencies of government and local government units. No, ito po ay ang massive clearing ng ating mga waterways, hindi lamang sa Greater Metro Manila area, kasama na ang Bulacan, kundi sa lahat ng mga major cities po natin and flood-prone areas sa buong bansa. No,
yung na-discover yung Mr. Chair, Secretary, na flood control na binawas ho ninyo, does this mean na hindi sila importante? I mean, does this mean na itong flood control na tinanggal ng Pangulo, it's not really important, ito ay gawa-gawa lang, kaya tinanggal at wala naman magiging epekto kung tanggalin ng Pangulo ngayon, alisin natin itong 255 billion na naka-allocate for flood control. They're not really necessary. Is that what it is?
Unang-una po, no, I think ang naging desisyon ng Pangulo para maiwasan na ang muling pagnanakaw ng scale na ganito.
Mr. Pero, Secretary, my point is, so nakikita ho ninyo, ni-review ninyo ito, was this your recommendation to the palace? Sir, alisin natin ito kasi parang mukhang may kikita lang dito sa 255 billion. Was it your recommendation?
Opo, to be quite frank about it, yes. Kasi nga po, marami, if not halos lahat po siguro, ng mga iniimbestigahan natin from the past. No? Unang-una, hindi na plano ng tama. And I think I'm happy to see Undersecretary C.P. Davidier of the DNR. I think he can bear us out on that. No? Na marami sa mga flood control projects, halimbawa po, itong mga revetment, no? Yung mga pagtatayo ng mga dike, no? Hindi lang ho sa hindi nakatulong, I think in some cases, nakasama pa. No, yun din po ang naririnig namin. Halimbawa, dito po sa mga reklamo ng ating LGUs tulad ni Mayor Joy Belmonte sa Quezon City na hindi lang sa walang epekto, walang magandang dinulot, nakasama pa, no, sa mga areas na dating hindi naman tinayuan nitong mga so-called flood control projects. So, tingin ko po, ang sabi po ng Pangulo, una, hintuin muna natin yung pagnanakaw, kasi mukhang ginamit lang to para sa maanumalyang rason. At ikalawa, planuhin na natin ng mabuti. Kaya po ngayon, kami po nakikipag-usap na po ngayon sa DNR, sa UP, sa Project NOAA, sa iba't ibang mga tanyag na ahensya na dayuhan tulad ng ADB at World Bank at JICA para po maplano na nating mabuti. Kaya po sa susunod na taon, kapag obviously kailangan na nating mag-invest muli ng malakihang pondo para sa flood control, ito po ay yung tama ng flood control.
So what you're saying is, Mr. Chair, Secretary, yung flood control ng National Flood Control Program, hindi flood control ni congressman, hindi flood control ni politiko, kundi it's a National Flood Control Program wherein totoo. Wherein talagang it will resolve our flooding here in our country. Hindi yung resolba lang doon sa isang lugar at may kumita, pero this one is national in nature.
Tama po kayo. National at properly planned flood control mitigation program. Tama po kayo, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Just to thank you for the intervention, Senator Tulfo. Tuloy ko lang yung kanina, no, yung like in 2024, Secretary Dizon, may nakita kaming construction of multipurpose building, Barangay San Sebastian, Jones, Isabela. Ito most likely siguro iba-iba itong location. No? Kung hindi man, kagaya kanina napakita natin sa Muntinlupa, iba-ibang location to. Pero if you look at the title, parang isa lang siya. No? Kaya hindi rin fair doon sa LGU at sa congressman dahil baka ma-accuse siya na isang one and the same lang at paulit-ulit lang yung project. Pero may nakita rin kami, next slide, na 4 times nag-appear. 2023, 2024, 2025, 2026. Kagaya ho yan, construction of multipurpose building, Barangay Lapasan, Cagayan de Oro City, Misamis Oriental. Ako, ang suspecho ko dito parang sa Muntinlupa ulit. Baka iba-iba ho yan. But the thing is, dahil nga walang detalye, hindi natin alam. Yung mga road construction naman, malamang continuation to. No? Kagaya to construction road in Barangay Kawasan, Lugisan, Cebu. No? Dahil wala ngang station number, hindi natin alam kung ito ay continuation or bagong kalye or what. No? So, I think yung isa-submit nyo sa amin o nasubmit na may station number, malaking bagay yan. No? I think that will solve a lot of the problems dito, majority of the problems. Hindi ko sinasabi na mayroong pong ghost project dito, may katiwalain dito. Ang sinasabi ko lang, posibleng magbukas to ng korupsyon. No? Posibleng magbukas to ng ghost projects na ayaw natin mangyari. So, ibigay namin yung file sa inyo, Secretary. Isama nyo na rin to sa review nyo.
Yes po. Please, Senator, and again, we want to thank you for your efforts here. Kasi, I mean, clearly, this has been going on for a long time already. It probably predates 2023, most likely. No?
And this is beyond you, kasi bago pa ito
Opo.
na na-appoint.
And ano po, para ho sa akin, ayusin na ho natin ang tama ngayon. And please, we will get the list. Again po, no, this is clearly not in the same list that was initially sent to us
it's not.
last week. So, we will include this in our submissions for Friday. And if hindi ho ma-justify, hindi ho mabigyan ng detalye, tatanggalin na lang po natin ito.
Thank you.
Maraming salamat po, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Secretary. And thank you for your cooperation. Importante ho yung cooperation nyo dahil
Always
pareho
po.
naman yung gusto natin. Malinis yung budget, maging maayos yung budget para hindi na maulit in 2025 na nangyari and earlier than 2025. No? So I'll jump to another topic. Okay, ma'am. I'll take advantage, Secretary, of your presence. In-invite namin yung DA dito, si Engineer Pulido. This is about farm-to-market roads. No? And Engineer Pulido, yung last DA hearing, sinabi nyo na walang farm-to-market road na gagawin kung hindi ho nakasali sa FMR network plan. Tama?
Correct, Mr. Chairman.
Very clear ho yan. Diba? In fact, nasa special provision ho yan. Lalabas ho namin. Nakasulat sa special provision na yung pondo ibibigay sa DPWH pero in accordance with the National FMR Network Plan. So ibig sabihin kahit na DPWH ang implement o construction agency, hindi nila gagawin yan kung wala sa FMR Network Plan. Tama ba Engineer Pulido?
Correct, Mr. Chairman.
At lahat ng FMR na nasa network plan, merong scope of work, estimated length in kilometers, specific location for each FMR project. Tama ba?
Correct, Mr.
So
Chairman.
lahat to available na ito.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Correct? Nasa listahan nyo na ho ito.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Kasi nakita ho namin sa GAB na lumaki ang pondo. Slide 26. Lumaki ang pondo ng FMR from 16 billion to 32 billion. So nadagdagan ng 16 billion. So, ang punto ko kasi, naglilinis ho tayo sa DPWH na i-transfer naman natin sa DA. No? Yung pwedeng maging issue. Ngayon, ang tanong ko ho, itong dagdag na, una yung 16 billion na original, lahat buho yan nasa FMR network plan, in 16 billion, yung first.
Mr. Chairman, not all of those additional FMRs are included in the FMRNP. They are yet to be validated, some of which are included, some of which are yet to be validated and included in the FMRNP.
No, in 2026 NEP, ilan dyan ang pasok sa network plan?
Mr. Chairman, all of the budget under the NEP are included in the FMRNP. However, for the additional budget included
Yung
in the
una muna na, yung 2026 muna, lahat yan nasa network plan.
Yung nasa
plano
NEP po.
nyo, yung nasa NEP. Itong additional 16 billion, nasa NEP ba yan o hindi na nasa NEP? Nasa network plan nyo pa o hindi nasa network plan?
Hindi po lahat nasa network plan.
Ilan ho dyan ang nasa network plan? Kasi ang iniiwasan ho natin ngayon yung mga FMR na hindi naman pasok doon sa inyong master plan, di ba ho?
Correct, Mr.
Kasi
Chair.
kung hindi pasok sa master plan ho ninyo, di hindi magagamit ng ating mga magsasaka at mangingisda yung FMR.
It has yet to be validated. It's possible that some would be feasible, but
Not
there might be possibility that some will not be feasible.
correct, correct. So
Or
it's,
there could be a duplication
or may
that
duplication rin.
some
di ba?
of those FMRs could have already been funded by other agencies,
Correct.
especially in 2026.
So itong nadagdag na 16 billion, ilan ho dyan ang pasok sa inyong network plan?
As of today po, sa 32? Sa 32 billion po ay the validated are already around 24 billion.
Sa 32 billion,
24 billion po ang nasa network plan.
24 billion ang nasa network plan.
So for validation pa po, Mr. Chairman, some of those FMRs.
So yung natitirang 8 billion, wala to sa network plan.
Wala pa po. We still
Hindi,
have
wala
to
pa, wala pa o wala?
Wala pa po ngayon sa network plan.
So kung wala siya sa network plan, dapat hindi gawin.
Mr. Chairman, we have to take also note na nag-evolve po yung network plan, meaning we have targeted that...
Yeah, but not, for purposes of budgeting, hindi pwedeng moving target eh.
Okay.
Diba? Hindi pwedeng moving target. Okay yung prospective. Pero pag maglalagay ka ng pondo, hindi pwedeng maglagay ng pondo tsaka tayo gumawa ng master plan. Parang
po.
sinushoot mo yung master plan sa pondo eh.
Correct po.
Dapat yung pondo ishoot sa master plan, di ba?
Correct po. And marami pa po tayong nasa master plan that has yet to be funded.
Correct. So, ang tanong ko nga, dito sa 32 billion, ilan ho dito ang pumasok na sa, o ilan dito ang hindi pasok sa master plan nyo ngayon?
Around 8 billion
So,
po, sir.
8 billion. So, yun ang tanong ko nga kasi, yan ang magiging dilemma rin ng DPWH once tinuloy natin yung special provision, hindi nila i-implement in 8 billion.
Correct, sir. The DPWH still has to get concurrence or clearance from the DA that these are indeed validated and feasible po ito. So, DPWH cannot implement those projects unless na-clear po ng DA ito.
So, sayang yung 8 billion. Correct. Tama? Sayang yung 8 billion kasi wala naman sa master plan ninyo. Hindi nila i-implement pero naglagay tayo ng pondo.
Correct, sir.
Diba? That's number one. Number two, nakita rin ho namin, napakinggan nyo naman yung conversation kanina. No? Nakita namin na yung mga FMR, pakilabas nga yung sample ng FMR. Yung mga, hindi, yung list, yung sa GA. Yung sa GA. Yung sa NEP. Yung sa NEP. Yung sa NEP. Yung sample sa NEP. Ito pala sa GAB. Yung mga FMR ninyo, nakita ko na ganun rin, very generic yung pangalan. Pero under sa special provisions, dapat meron ng location, may length, may specific location, may work program. So ibig sabihin pwede ring ilagay yung station number.
Possible po, Mr. Chairman.
Hindi possible. Dapat ilagay yung station number. Kasi kung hindi, narinig nyo kanina yung conversation, di ba ho? Kung ang kalsada nalalagyan ng station number, ang school nalalagyan ng school ID, dapat rin yung FMR. Dahil for all intents and purposes, kalsada rin to eh. Kalsada rin ho to. May specific purpose lang nga, no? Farm to market. So, dapat meron rin ho tong station number at the very least para malaman ho natin kung nasaan at hindi ho madoble yung FMR.
Correct, Mr. Chairman. We subscribe to the wisdom of putting the station number, but we also have to clear lang po namin that prior to the implementation of the FMRs, DPWH and DA conducts a joint geotagging of the start and the end of the project. So both agencies are aware kung saan po magsisimula at magtatapos yung mga proyekto po ito. But we could also include in the list of the FMRs the specific coordinates, geotag location po nito.
Actually, hindi pa namin to nabangga yung earlier years, no? Kasi nga, sa dami ng ano. But I am assuming marami rin dito mga repeated projects. In terms of title, in terms of title. Tama?
Mr.
I'm
Chairman,
not saying repeated as in na ulit ginawa yung project, but repeated in terms of title. Yung nakita natin sa DPWH. No?
yes, correct, Mr. Chairman. But instead of putting a generic name, we put phase 1 and phase 2 kasi it's possible po na the entire need is 2 kilometers yet the fund allocated is only for 1 kilometer. So we put phase 1 and if case there would be an additional funding for the following year, we put phase 2 on it.
Pero itong mga ito, meron na itong location, may length, at meron ng work program.
Wala pa pong work program. We just have a validated name, coordinates, and the length. But for the program of works, that's the responsibility of the DPWH.
But these are all in your master plan.
Correct, sir.
So pwede nang i-identify, sabi nyo kanina yung coordinates, pwede na ma-identify yung
Correct,
length.
sir.
So ilagay na rin natin.
Correct.
Para hindi na, the same, no? Para hindi magkaroon ng duplication, repeated, hindi rin magkaroon ng discretion on the ground kung anong gagawin.
Correct, sir. We
Alright,
could
so-
do that po.
Okay, so submit nyo rin sa amin by Friday?
Yes, sir.
Oo. And then yung 8 billion na hindi ma-track down, kung hindi yan pasok sa master plan ninyo, ang inclination ng Senado, tanggalin na yon. Hindi pasok sa master plan eh.
Or, Mr. Chairman, an alternative would be to look at a possible replacement
Pwede
coming
rin.
from the FMRNP.
Yes, pwede
so
rin.
that means
Pwede
we could allocate for those unfunded, validated,
Okay,
feasible.
we can do that. So, can you suggest to us na rin kung anong ipapalit doon sa mga wala sa master plan?
Sige po, Mr. Chair.
Kayo na rin mag-suggest in that location. All right, sige. Thank you. Thank you for that. You recognize Senator Lauren? Yeah.
Before we proceed with my questions, Mr. Chair, I think you were in the DNR hearing. Yes, I'm glad that Senator JV is also here. I think you were there in the DNR hearing. And Undersecretary Carlos Primo David mentioned about DNR studies on flood control because I asked him about it. And can I have the yung canon? Yeah, I mean it's now. Can you please briefly explain what you explained in the hearing, and not to pit you against another department? Oh, wag ka mahiya yung sinabi nyo. Sabihin ko rin totoo, hindi po kami pinakikinggan ng DPWH. In so many words, right? Did you say that, or is it my own words? You said there was a plan, you presented it to DPWH, and I said, so what happened? Kasi hindi dapat scientific, nature-based, science-based ang construction. Hindi naman lahat kailangan semento, iba nature-based. But I'll go to that later. But you said that DNR had a plan because I put all the water agencies together and I was asking them one by one. It took us the whole day. Anyway, and you said you had a plan, not you personally, the department submitted to DPWH, but it was not heeded. Am I accurate in my remembering what happened a few weeks ago? Undersecretary David.
Mr. Chair, that was in the context of a meeting I had in 2024 with officials of the DPWH, wherein we were planning for convergence projects. And these are projects that have multiple benefits for flooding, for water supply, irrigation, and so on. DNR and NIA submitted a list of convergence projects to DPWH, but they were not considered during that time.
Pakipaliwanag po, DNR, NIA, and all the water agencies, should there not be clear coordination between the water agencies, and should there not be environment impact assessment for all the flood mitigation measures? Should there not be ECCs granted for all the flood control projects, whether it's a dike, a revetment? And to be fair, as a climate adaptation advocate for 3 decades now, flood mitigation, flood control is a climate adaptation measure. But hindi naman kailangan puro semento. I may nature-based solutions, the others naman are infrastructure. So hindi natin minamasama ang flood control na tama yung paggawa. So kindly explain, and do you have a short, I don't know if you have the time for a presentation, but
Mr. Chair, I have a 15-minute
mahaba.
presentation. It's 2 pages long, so baka ikliyan ko na lang.
Chair, wag na 15 minutes, 5
sige.
minutes.
Bilisan ko na lang.
Ganun mo lang. Pakita mo
Sige.
lang, and then we just want to know from the agency, DPWH, if indeed you received it and what happened. And maybe I'm wrong, maybe there shouldn't be coordination, maybe you should stand alone and ignore DNR. But in my mind and in my work for decades, I know that infrastructure must take into consideration the natural ecosystem around it. You just don't build a dike without knowing where the water goes. And we cannot fight the water. Kailangan may mga small water impounding, kailangan may mga rain gardens, kailangan may yung pababa, yung sinasabi ni Sec Babe Singson. Oo, so yes, Sec Dizon.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry to my friend, Undersecretary CP, but Senator Gigarda, Mr. Chair, is absolutely correct. And just to emphasize, for the projects that we have visited and investigated, wala pong ni isang flood control project na may ECC. Wala. Ni isa. Exactly. Yun din po ang tanong namin, ma'am. Yung pong mga binisita ni Presidente, yung mga binisita namin, na iniimbestiga namin ngayon, wala pong ECC. Yun po, wala pong ECC yung mga proyektong yan. So, and I could not agree more with Senator Gigarda, Mr. Chairman. Ma'am, to be quite frank, wala nga pong building permit sa LGU Yung pong sa Mindoro, yung pong ginawa po doon ng sa Nauhan, sa bayan mismo ng governor ng Mindoro, ng Oriental Mindoro. Si Governor, yung pong ginawa ng Sunwest at St. Timothy at Alpha Omega. Elite. Wala pong building permit, wala pong ECC. Just for the record, Mr. Chairman, and we could not agree more with Senator Gigarda's observations. Thank you po.
Thank you, Secretary. Yusek, pwedeng pakita mo lang yung 15 minutes mo. Pag sabi ng chair na mag-stop, stop na.
Yes, mabilis
Kung,
lang.
5 minutes mo.
Mabilis.
3 minutes. Sige,
Actually, Mr. Chair, sinulat ko na para wala ng ad-lib dito. Okay, next slide please. The DNR, through the Water Resources Management Office, serves as co-chair of the DepDev Infrastructure Committee on the Subcommittee on Water Resources. The SCWR advocates for increased investment in the water sector, aims to reduce duplication of government projects, and promotes accountability and project convergence among the different departments. Next slide, please. In 2023, and this is where everything started, the DPWH submitted 304 billion worth of flood control projects and 14 billion worth of solar water supply projects to the SCWR, which I co-chair, for inclusion in the DBM program convergence budgeting. Next slide, please. The subcommittee requested additional documentation from DPWH, such as master plans and project impact assessments, and agreed as a group that these projects need to be monitored as part of its coordination and policy oversight functions of the SCWR, similar to what we are doing with the other water projects in the different departments. Next slide, please. And so in the beginning of 2024, we started monitoring the flood control projects using DNR regional personnel supported by satellite technology, and this is one tool that I'm promoting that DPWH and other agencies need to utilize. This photo was taken on October 23, 2025, which can clearly mark the start and end of any infrastructure project, may it be a dike or a road or a building. And in terms of identification, it is very, very easy. Next slide, please. We use geospatial data analytics and artificial intelligence in monitoring projects. Since then, we have assessed over 5,300 flood control projects like this one you are seeing, implemented from 2021 to 2024. Next slide. All findings are compiled in an online dashboard that has been shared with PMS, DBM, and DPWH, allowing validation of our assessments on the ground. Next slide. We classify projects into three categories. Validated, meaning they are confirmed to exist and effectively protect communities from flooding. This is about 23% of all the projects that we have assessed. Ghost projects actually come in many forms, not just those that are unconstructed, but also those that are duplicated within the same funding year or in previous years. Projects that are located in invalid sites wherein there are no rivers or creeks, or also incomplete wherein the prescribed length is actually much shorter than what is funded. The third kind, next slide please, which I wish to focus on are the poorly situated projects. Here's an example pala of multiple projects in a single river. Ito yung nakakalitong pinag-uusapan kanina. In this slide, in Kamiling River, you will see 8 projects funded in different years with different funding. But if you plot it in a map like this, you will readily see that there are overlaps in the projects. And when you compute for the length versus the total amount, for example, the 99 million pin over there should stop at the next pin, which is 98.5 million. That length is only 200 meters, which means that the dike has a unit linear cost of about 500,000 per linear meter. No, so it is only through geospatial data such as this that you will see some of the other problematic issues related to flood control. Next slide, please. The poorly situated projects are, in my personal opinion, are more important even compared to the ghost projects that we have been investigating. Every time we constrict, block, divert, or alter natural waterways, we change the velocity and volume of water flow. In this particular case, in New Bataan, Davao de Oro, it is clearly seen that the dike constricts the river, makes it straight instead of meandering. And the effect of this is that the flow of water actually becomes faster, and the volume of water that will normally spread throughout its floodplain will now be diverted further downstream, creating more floods downstream. Next slide, please. In effect, constructing river dikes to protect one area often transfers the flood risk to another area. Here's another example in Tarlac, wherein there are 2 dike projects that obviously weren't coordinated to each other. The river flows from left to right, and because there is a gap in the dikes that were constructed, during the rainy season, it is even more possible that the water enters into the community, where in fact previously they probably get flooded, but this time it's actually exacerbated. Next slide, please. Some projects do not put any harm, but are poorly situated because they do not function as a flood control structure. In this particular case, there is water on both sides of the dike, and therefore you're not protecting either side if there's water on both sides. Next slide, please. This one is a small creek that leads into a bigger river. The dikes looks like they were properly constructed. In fact, they are thicker than the creek itself, but they are not protecting any vital assets because on both sides, no, these are idle lands. No, this is the result of poor planning, and there are definitely other areas that require protection. Next slide, please. This one I wish DPWH would look further into because we're not an investigating party in this flood control issue, but we transfer everything to those that are investigating, whether it be the Blue Ribbon Committee, DPWH, or the ICI. This is a flood control project within Laguna de Bay. But if you look at the satellite images, they are actually reclamation projects within the lake right along C6. And so this is a different kind of issue because there are much more permits, environmental impact. Maybe it even causes further flooding within the Laguna Lake area when you do reclamation projects. Next slide, please. There are many, there is far more to be uncovered from the data, and we leave this to those conducting deeper investigations. It also exposes the cost of poorly planned infrastructure. I therefore recommend to this committee that government institutionalize a centralized project database similar to Sumbong sa Pangulo, or DBM's Project Dime, or the Sandata system, or even our own dashboard that we developed in DNR. This will promote better planning, transparency, and accountability across implementing agencies. More importantly, this will assist Congress in allocating funds under the GAA. I also urge the legislature to support a new type of flood control projects. Next slide, please. We have drafted a National Flood Management Master Plan, which should be harmonized with that of DPWH. We advance the IWRM approach, Integrated Water Resources Management approach. We recognize water as a vital national asset, one that includes even floodwaters, which when harnessed, can be used for water supply, irrigation, hydropower, aquaculture, and other productive uses. The principles are very simple. Nature-based, protect our watersheds, keep our waterways clear, create natural flood buffers. Instead of diverting water into the ocean, we should impound using man-made lakes, reservoirs, aquifer infiltration, dams, and underground cisterns. Land use planning cannot be highlighted enough. Development away from flood-prone areas, promote open spaces, and effective LGU policies. And therefore, gray infrastructure is a vital component of this strategy, but it should be cost-effective, properly placed, and that maintenance is built in. Next slide, please. In the past, we were constructing man-made lakes for reservoirs for various purposes, whether it be aquaculture or irrigation. We wish to push forward with these kinds of projects. This is one example in Tarlac. Next slide, please. This is a proposed man-made lake in Angat River that will reduce the flooding in the Bulacan area such as Kalumpit. Next slide, please. This year, we initiated feasibility studies for 21 of these kinds of projects. These are not yet included in our proposed budget in DNR, as we are completing the studies, consulting the concerned LGUs, and securing the necessary permits, including our own ECC. We wish to develop these projects further with the new team in DPWH, but we believe that, such as this example, this is called Lake 77 in Bislig, Surigao del Sur. It's 77 hectares in size, constructed in 1977. It is now used for aquaculture and ecotourism, as well as for flood control if it's refurbished, and also for water supply later on. Next slide, please. Many examples of convergence projects such as this one in Midsayap. This is an existing dam for NIA. This is now going to be used for water supply, no, to supply water to about 70,000 residents of the area. Next slide. Last few examples. This is our proposal for flooding in Marikina River. Instead of putting dikes, we wish to propose a man-made lake in San Mateo that will capture and hold water from going down to Marikina and Pasig. This water can now be used for other purposes, whether it be ecotourism or even aquaculture. Next slide. Here's one example of regional planning that we have done. This is for the whole of Bicol River Basin, wherein we plot out all potential man-made lakes for various purposes, but also including flood control. Finally, next slide. This is an example, and I think you can click on the slide because this is a video. This is one of the projects of DPWH that I should commend. Siguro hindi nagpe-play. Together with NIA, it's a convergence project both for flood control and irrigation. In summary, while ongoing investigations into corruption must continue, we view this as an opportunity to strengthen interagency planning, enhance public accountability through transparency dashboards, and shift towards a more sustainable and integrated approach to flood management and water resources development. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much, Undersecretary David. Thank you for bringing that to our attention during our DNR hearing and for being here today. All of this information are not new. You were supposed to coordinate with DPWH to present it in the interagency, and was it taken into consideration or totally not used or ignored? And for what reason? Maybe
In the
please.
past, it
Thank
was
you.
not considered because the mandates of DPWH and DNR on water resources are disconjuncted. No? They handle flood control and we handle water resources. But now I'm happy to say that we are working with a team in DPWH to do convergence.
That may also just cite that perhaps DNR needs to review the ECC requirement, because I am told small flood control projects only apply for certificate of non-coverage, even if by nature they are in critical areas and they are critical projects. So kung non-coverage, walang ECC nga. Yun. Pag maluwag, paano yun? Yes. Thank you.
Ma'am, if I may, you're right po, but can I just state also for the record that in some, like for example, the one in Mindoro, which was it was not a small flood control project, Madam Chair, no? Pero kahit CNC, wala eh. Kahit CNC po, wala. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for that. I know, if I may, proceed with my questions. Yes, but the Chair may interrupt me anytime if I am too long. Okay. There was a mention of a DENR WRMO database. I asked this of the DPWH since 2023. And it has evaluated more than 4,000 flood control projects using AI, satellite imagery, geographic information systems. And the results were shared through a dashboard with PMS, DPWH that was mentioned by USEC and DBM. And he said that it remains unused. So the new team, are you aware of the existence of this dashboard? Why has a DPWH not utilized or validated the WRMO's flood project database, and what steps will the DPWH take to integrate the system into project validation, planning, and budget allocation? And whatever the answer is, may I kindly request that you do not just use it for the 2026 moving forward, but since many of the 2025 projects are still either FLR or ongoing, it can be used already. So I'd like to know the answer, please. And the purpose of my question is to determine interagency tools for transparency, verification, so that they are maximized and do not or we totally avoid the ghost projects or the duplicate projects as stated by the chair? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, ma'am. First of all, I learned about the dashboard maybe a few weeks after I came in. Undersecretary David, as like I said, is a good friend. So he informed me about it, and I saw it, and I sent it immediately to our team, and they have been working. The technical groups have been working since. No? And in fact, tomorrow, with our new OIC for... on Wednesday, for a new, they will already start presenting recommendations on how to use the data, both in terms of planning moving forward, but also, and I think I made this very clear to the team when I first learned about the findings of the DNR and the WRMO, that we have to apply what the DNR has learned about these flood control projects, even for projects that have already been completed. Why? Because according, and if I may speak frankly, Mr. Chairman, according to Yusek David, their evidence shows that not only have some of those flood control projects been useless, but they have become harmful. Meaning, sumama pa yung baha. Dahil nga yung pong ine-explain ni Undersecretary CP kanina na ang mga dike kasi, ang problema dyan, either both rini-restrict ang flow ng tubig, ibig sabihin yung carrying capacity ng mga waterways gumiliit, but ang more harmful doon ay yung pinapabilis niya yung daloy ng tubig o yung velocity of water speeds up. At yun ang mas nakakasira at nakakasama. So, why did I ask for that? Because we are already thinking ahead that with enough data and with enough evidence, maybe we might even need to dismantle some of those flood control projects because of their net harmful effects to the communities and the environment. So, ma'am, that is the purpose. But this is a very, how should I say, it's a very meticulous process, and it's also a very sensitive process because there are COA issues involved, and alam naman po natin, there are COA rules where you cannot just demolish a project that was built after within a certain period. So there are complexities to this, but we first need to look at the evidence.
They are harmful.
Exactly, ma'am.
If they're harmful,
Absolutely.
kung ikamamatay, ikababaha ng mga barangay at komunidad, kailangan gawing kaagad kung
Correct.
scientifically
Proven.
O kaagad yun.
We agree po,
Yun.
Mr. Chairman and Senator Lauren. This is critical. That's why I think the reports will be presented to me in particular and to the senior team on Wednesday, and we are already currently working not just with DNR but also with the University of the Philippines, particularly with Project NOAA with Professor Mahar Lagmay, as well as one of the renowned hydrologists in the country, Professor Tabios of the University of the Philippines. So we are working with them, and we really need to put some order and some science into this, because clearly there was very little to no science involved in the implementation of these projects. Thank you very much,
I-embed na
ma'am.
nyo si Yusek David sa inyong mga projects.
Kasama po
Dapat
siya.
naman coordination naman talaga eh.
Tama
Yes.
po, ma'am. Thank you po.
Okay, thank you for that. WRMO's evaluation shows that 42% of the projects reviewed were unconstructed, duplicated, or already existing, yet some were declared completed and paid for. So may I know, how are these projects cleared for payment and certification despite being absent or duplicated? And can we use the systems to demand project completion, case building, and or restitution? So the purpose of this question is to assess the adequacy of DPWH project validation and internal audit mechanisms so that we can prevent the continued misuse of public funds. The accountability of duplicated projects, although you somehow answer that, but can you kindly assure us of the use of the evaluation of WRMO?
We assure you, Madam Senator, and we assure the committee that from here on, the DPWH will work very, very closely with the DNR and specifically the WRMO, because we are in total agreement. In fact, the project that was the last slide of Yusek David, the project in Claveria, the Union water impounding joint project of DPWH, was in fact visited by the President 2 weeks ago, and we consider it one of the more successful, not only flood control, but water impounding and irrigation in one, no? And we feel that with the help of the DNR and other experts, we can really guide and plan our flood mitigation program towards these types of projects and no longer those that we have seen in the past couple of years. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you for that. I now go, Mr. Chair, to the fragmented flood management and the basin-based planning. I ask this in the context of floods and water systems not being administrative or political boundaries, because floods do not recognize political boundaries, hindi distrito niyan, ganito niyan, geographical. Yet government planning and implementation of flood control projects remains fragmented. And here we are, even us perhaps, both houses of Congress are guilty because we are looking at congressional districts in terms of infrastructure planning when water and floods, as we see, do not look at congressional districts in the way nature moves. So DPWH programs per district, even per province, often without alignment to hydrological or river basin boundaries defined by WRMO or the River Basin Project or even DepDev. So how are we assured, I mean, we're studying it, that for the GAA 2026 and for existing GAA 2025, how are we assured that this will be taken into consideration in the future? Does the DNR recommend shifting DPWH flood control programming from district, meaning congressional or provincial levels, to a basin-based framework aligned with the integrated water resources management principles? And can the DPWH adopt river basin level coordination using updated geological and sedimentation data? In short, nature-based, scientific, hindi political or administrative boundaries. So what kind of innovation, if any, has the DPWH new team done to take this into consideration? Because we're talking about allocable and unallocable. Distrito pa rin eh. Hindi pa rin nature-based, hindi pa rin scientific eh. Political pa rin eh. Yeah. So, paano po?
Ma'am,
Thank you.
First of all, you're absolutely correct. No, I mean, flooding knows no boundaries and therefore should not be constrained by district boundaries, no, and other boundaries. So what we are actually trying to do now, and I think it is very opportune because the President has already taken out all the flood control projects, locally funded flood control projects for 2026. Now is really the time to plan this well, Madam Chair. But unfortunately, this takes some time, no? We are right now in the early stages of that, just putting together all the experts together and all their recommendations together and come up with a master plan, at least for certain areas like Bulacan, Metro Manila, and other flood-prone areas, para po when 2027 comes, is meron na po tayong rhyme and reason dito sa pagpapagawa at pagpaplano ng mga flood control projects na ito, because we will not allow the same thing to happen again, Madam Chair, na ang flood control natin is dictated lang by, flood control project of this district or that district and that. No, we will no longer allow that. It needs to be a well-planned series of projects that will eventually need either provincial or regional development council clearances, no, but we're not there yet, ma'am. No, there's no such plan in place. In fact, next year pa lang po lalabas yung 18 major river basin plan ng World Bank. It will finish in middle of 2026. But in the meantime, we cannot wait for that. No, we need to already
Meron
start.
na nito nung panahon ni Sec Babe Singson.
Meron po.
And he's an expert in that, yung mga river basin projects.
Opo.
Meron na ang DPWH nun.
Ma'am, yes, you're talking about the 2013 one. This is the one that's being updated now by this major river basin master plan, which will be completed next year. But like I said po, ma'am, we will not wait for this. We will continue working with the DNR because, I mean, pwede na naman tayo magsimula po ngayon pa lang. There's enough data and there are enough experts on this that we can work on already now. So that is commencing already, ma'am, as we speak. Thank you. Ms.
Just to note again, because we always, again, think in terms of either political districts or administrative regions. So, water resources regions are different from our administrative regions. Ang ating regions, ilan? At 18 admin regions, but there are only 12 water regions. So, at the proper time, maybe this afternoon, is a DPWH equipped and ready to present to us your plan for the 12 water regions? Otherwise, Mr. Chair, because we need to see the infrastructure project vis-a-vis the scientific nature-based solutions to flood mitigation in the 12 water regions in planning for 2026. Kasi how can we approve a budget na base pa sa lumang intindi na kailangan congressional district ang pagplano ng flood control kung hindi natin binabago ngayon ayon sa pagdaloy ng tubig ayon sa 12 water regions at hindi sa 18 administrative regions at hindi ayon sa congressional district. Ang baha naman, hindi sinasabi, dito lang ako sa distritong baha, hindi naman ganun eh. Kaya lang yun ang planning nga eh. So dapat parang baguhin ngayon, hindi pang 2027. In the meantime, sa 1.5 years, ay lulubog tayo?
Ma'am, unang-una po, tinanong ko lang po yung mga kasamahan ko dito, wala po tayong konkretong plano. Wala pa. And I think this is why the wisdom of the President to remove all locally funded flood control projects for 2026 makes so much sense. Because dahil clearly walang plano, clearly yung mga dating ginawa, wala ding plano. So, kailangan po talaga medyo mag-hit the pause button tayo muna for locally funded flood control. Kaya po, wala pong locally funded flood control for 2026. Ang meron lang po ay foreign-assisted flood control projects, roughly about 15.7 billion, na meron naman pong plano. At ito po'y pinlano ng mabuti ng mga funding agencies po na nagbigay ng pondo.
I appreciate your honesty and your candor na wala pa. Pero siguro naman po, pwede niyong i-backtrack yung ginawa nung 2013. I remember it was in the same room. I asked Sec Singson. He had a study, he had plans, and then nag-end na yung term ng Aquino administration. But meron tayong basihan, hindi naman nagbabago. Nagiging worse lang ang sitwasyon ng kalikasan eh. So you can use whatever he had then, right? Yes, yes.
Absolutely, ma'am. Thank you po.
Okay, so I actually have so much question about that, but I don't want to belabor that point. I now go to the lack of detail which the chair earlier cited. To be fair to those LGUs you mentioned, perhaps it's a miscommunication or lack of communication. Maybe all DPWH people, while they are engineers, should learn how to communicate clearly, in detail, and correctly. Meron lang maling may grammar. DNR yun. Far faster. Faster lang. More faster. Faster lang. Okay, ang gobyerno kailangan matuto ng grammar at saka accuracy. Okay. So, the lack of detail and transparency in the nomenclature of DPWH projects. A close reading, may hearing sa kabila? Okay, maingay ah. Yeah. A close reading of the 2026 DPWH infrastructure program shows that many listed projects are described in vague, generic terms. For instance, construction of multipurpose buildings, rehabilitation of roads, or construction of flood mitigation structures with no accompanying details such as location, coordinates, project length in kilometers, technical specifications, implementing unit or scope of works. Kindly correct me if I'm wrong, dapat bang kasama ito? And the same issue is observed in convergence programs. For example, farm-to-market roads under the DA or SRA, DPWH own access roads for strategic infrastructure, yung CPAG, and network development programs where project titles and codes often overlap, making it nearly impossible for auditors, LGUs, senators, and even the public to validate whether these refer to unique projects or duplicates under different agencies. Moreover, many project entries contain alphanumeric codes. Example, K0107 plus 000-K0107 plus 511.96. Siyempre, naintindihan nyo, pero paano maiintindihan ng mga nag-approve ng pondo? To us, it may seem unintelligible to non-engineers and are not linked to publicly available reference maps, depriving our citizens of the ability to track implementation or validate site completion. So this creates an opaque budget environment where even Congress, both houses, and even COA and civil society cannot easily distinguish between legitimate or questionable projects. So if this continues, transparency measures like the Budget Transparency Portal or even open data, government data will have limited value as the entries themselves are unverifiable at the project level. So may I know from DPWH, because this is in our NEP revised, yun pa rin ang ginagamit eh. So there are no changes. In short, parang we're depriving the public and non-engineers of understanding either through incomplete or unintelligible data. So why does the DPWH continue to use this vague and non-descriptive nomenclature for projects without key details such as project length, yung haba syempre, location coordinates para malaman kung saan, barangay coverage para malaman ng mga tao ay meron palang darating sa amin, or technical specifications? Would the department support the rationalization of project labeling and budget entries requiring every line item to include measurable and verifiable information? Length, ilang kilometro? Area, square meters? Number of beneficiaries ba? Mahirap ba yan? Or completion of target date? So, correct me if I'm wrong, we're just trying to understand the budgets. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may, again, you are absolutely correct, ma'am. The budget entries are too vague and too general to the point that one can no longer ascertain if this is actually a completed project, a continuation of an ongoing project, a completion of an ongoing project, because it does not contain the details necessary to make those determinations. And I think moving forward now with the corrections that we have submitted to the chairman based on the committee's observation, the change must start already with the 2026 budget. So we will now be including the stations, meaning kilometer X to kilometer Y. We will be including the project IDs for projects such as multipurpose buildings or classrooms. We will obviously the exact location of the projects, and also a very clear nomenclature to show that this is either a continuing project or a project that will be finally completed with the funding being requested. I think all of these details should be in these line items starting the 2026 budget moving forward.
Thank you for that assurance. So, the list tomorrow that will come from planning with the non-allocable and allocable in different name, district and above the district, mas klaro na po. Hindi na yung parang paulit-ulit, mas maliwanag para maiintindihan namin. Yes.
Mr. Chair, if I may, on the, ano lang po, no? Tomorrow po, I think we will be submitting the summary on the legislative district on the specifics, because there were additional items po that were sent, that will be sent by the committee to us. Ang na-correct pa lang po namin is yung mga last, tawag dito, yung pinadala po last week. So we asked po until Friday, Madam Chair. So Mr. Chairman, so we will send those by Friday. But we will send the summary list of per legislative district tomorrow. Opo.
Indicating allocable, non-allocable, whatever term you want to use. Thank you po. Now, on rethinking flood mitigation and moving beyond a construction-heavy approach. All these decades, DPWH has remained hyper-focused on flood control infrastructure, dikes, seawalls, drainage systems, and pumping stations, and rightly so, because we're a vulnerable nation. But often, it's built in isolation without corresponding upstream or ecosystem intervention. Because nga, nakafocus sa admin regions or congressional districts. Ang baha naman, hindi naman tumitingin sa politika. So this has resulted in massive spending with minimal actual long-term reduction in flood risk, and as shown, it has even become contradictory to the help, in fact, dangerous. So while some projects, to be fair, have provided some relief, others have worsened flooding, as shown in the studies. Flooding downstream, it has degraded water systems, it has caused displacement of communities. This has led our experts, including those from DNR, from DepDev, from the Infrastructure Committee of NEDA, to call for a shift towards integrated nature-based and ridge-to-reef flood management approaches. So the DNR has nature-based solutions. What are these? Wetland restoration, mangrove reforestation, watershed rehabilitation, sediment retention in uplands as cheaper, cost-effective, resilient alternatives to hard or gray infrastructure. But the DPWH current planning and budget frameworks still, engineers kayo, naintindihan ko po, remain heavily skewed towards construction-based outputs, reflecting both the bureaucratic inertia and in some cases, sorry to say, perverse incentives tied to high-value civil work contracts. I'll use it in those terms. So, construction-heavy, hindi ko pa nararamdaman, as of now, not to blame anyone, yung nature-based solutions. Mas gusto ko pong makita, kasi, ano to hindi pwedeng puro, parang yung ginagawa ng Singapore, alam ni Sec Dizon yan, they work with nature in their dike system. Hindi palaging tayo ng mga dike, or even let's say the polder system of the Netherlands. So ayon sana sa kalikasan. Gusto kong maramdaman po yun, hindi ko pa nakikita sa inyong budget. So given what's happening now and the department's bias for flood control infrastructure, not just as a technical choice but as a structural weakness, so I want to know, how do we integrate this nature-based solutions into our flood, not just flood mitigation infrastructure na ziniro natin, tinanggal yung 255, in everything, even in roadside ditches, even in rain, even in FMRs, for example. So gusto ko po makita na mawala yung current infrastructure bias na maaring iba ay substandard, hindi ko linalahat po, pero gusto ko makita po yung watershed-based flood mitigation approaches na binanggit. I can go on and on, but that's something, part of the change. Kasi madaling magtanggal. Tanggalin na yung flood control. Hindi. Eh yung nananatili, paano natin i-incorporate yung ganitong mga filosofiya po? Yes. Thank you.
Yes, again, Mr. Chairman, the senator is spot on in her observations. I think the main problem is there has been very, very little effort exerted towards really master planning these various systems. Flood control is one. The network of farm-to-market roads is another. Network of bridges and roads is another. I think that is the main weakness, Mr. Chairman, no? And that's why I think taking this time to be able to plan and work well with DNR, other agencies such as the ADB and the World Bank and JICA, as well as our own universities here like UP, we really need to come up with an integrated water resource management system plan, which is currently non-existent, ma'am, no? Just to put it bluntly. No? Wala po yan eh. And the nature-based solutions must be part of that. No, and you're absolutely right, Mr. Chairman. It is really not in the current program right now. It is not reflected in the current program because it does not exist right now for so many years. So now that has to change. So now that we are working with DNR and with UP and with the other agencies, I think this is where the beginnings of a integrated water resource plan will come to life. No? And that will definitely include and must include nature-based solutions and not just engineering-based solutions to not only the flooding problem but also the overall water management problem.
So we look forward to seeing that, Sec. Thank you for your answer. Now, in a hearing a few months ago, I think the chair was there. What agency? A small agency, National Museum yata, sinabi, hindi raw napondohan yung continuation ng National Museum, tas sabi ng DBM kasi walang trip. Alala mo? Nagulat tayo. Diba? Trip. It was a multi-year project, tas sabi ng DBM, diba, nagulat tayo kasi wala daw trip. Multi-year yon. So gusto ko lang malaman po, how does the classification align with or undermine, I mean, lahat ba ng proyekto na nasa NEP revised ninyo at nasa GAB ay ayon sa TRIP, DepDev's 3-year rolling infrastructure program? Kasi mismong National Museum hindi raw linagay, sabi ng DBM, kasi kailangan dumaan daw sa DepDev na trip. So tama ba yun o mali ang intindi namin? So lahat po ng inyong programang nakasaad sa NEP, Revise at sa GAB, allocable man o non-allocable, ay dumaan sa DepDev na trip. It's a 3-year rolling infrastructure program. Lahat ba yan galing sa DepDev, yung inyong mga panukala sa GAB?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, let me just find out because we will submit it if it's part of the trip or not, no, of the 3-year rolling program. But I find it quite difficult to believe bakit hindi. I mean, it's just a National Museum funding and bakit kailangan.
No, I'm not asking about National Museum. I'm just citing it as an example. The chair and I were in a hearing and National Museum said wala silang pondo. Tinanong namin sa DBM ba wala? Sabi ng DBM kasi wala daw silang trip. So, kung yun maliit na museo, ito po, lahat ng infrastructure nyo, dumaan ba yan sa DepDev?
I don't think so po.
Exactly.
I
So,
don't think
ibig
so.
sabihin, hindi a-approve ni DBM
Correct.
ang inyong funding. Kasi hindi nila in-approve yung National Museum na multi-year na stop yung building kasi walang DepDev na trip. So, kung lahat ng inyong ating pinag-uusapan ngayon ay di dumaan sa DepDev na trip, hindi i-EFLR kayo o i-veto kayo. Yun ang
Correct.
sabi sa amin sa hearing. So dapat ang DBM, i-hold natin ko nandito or ipaliwanag. Kung hindi dumaan sa DepDev na trip, i-veto ba or i-FLR or dapat ba natin hindi isama sa GAA?
Sige po.
Clarify. Kasi ano yan confusing.
Very
Remember?
good, Magion.
Oo.
Yeah. So we will consolidate po, Mr. Chair, Madam Senator, and we will submit that.
Ko, but you were
We
there,
will submit.
remember? Medyo
But
naguluhan tayo.
I find it difficult to believe as you na
Yes.
gano'n. No?
Kasi every line item in the DPWH budget went through DBM trip. Parang hindi.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's difficult to believe that.
Undersecretary Cangaspo just passed me an information. Yung mga hindi daw po dumaan sa trip, dumaan dapat sa RDC level, which is, I guess, an extension of DepDev. No? So, but again, we will have to validate and submit it to the
Kasi
committee.
ng DBM nun, the submission to the trip ensures that projects, tama naman, are aligned in the master plan, have feasibility studies, and are shovel-ready. And part of the Philippine Development Plan. Kaya yung part 2 ng National Museum, hindi na pondohan, wala daw trip. Kaya nga, winawarningan ko lang kayo, kung wala kayong trip, paano yun? I leave that kung i-check po nyo, siguro later before we finish that, yan. So, now I've gone macro, now very, very micro. And I hope I'm not considered to be parochial here. I just speak for the provinces who may be large in land area and population but receive 1/2 or 1/3 the allocation of other provinces, because again, our budgeting is based on administrative or political districts, not by need. Okay, example, with the permission of the chair, may I just, parochial pero kailangan eh. We have to speak for the people eh. Antique budget is much lower compared to its neighbors. And do not get me wrong, I'm a senator, I represent our Region 6 and the island of Panay. I'm happy that the others are bigger. Pero para lang ihambing. Let's say, Aklan, Iloilo, Capiz, yan. So I'm glad. But Aklan and Capiz, despite having a population equal to us in Antique, but we have much larger land area. Per land area, Antique receives only 0.43 million per square kilometer, roughly 1/3 of neighboring province, kasi lone district kami. So, an ordinary Antiqueño benefits only, ginawa kong per capita, 1,800 worth of infrastructure investment from the government compared to residents of Aklan or Capiz who benefit around 3.6 to 3.9 thousand or double the amount. Again, I am happy that the other neighboring provinces have triple the budgets because there are congressional districts. Huwag po niyong tanggalin, dagdagan pa nyo. Pero bakit ang probinsya ko, hindi naman ako yung congressman, pero 3B yung NEP, tas yung NEP revised naging 1.1. Pareho ng Valenzuela. 1.1B. Talagang aping-api. Bakit ganun? At meron naman maraming probinsyang nangyayari po yun. Siguro, iisipin ko lang, mahirap magsiguro. Kasi stricto, kasi takot maglagay iba doon, o baka hindi naisip ng central, hindi naisip ng region, or siguro yung district engineer hindi humingi ng malaki, or siguro yung congressman o yung senador hindi humihirit. But don't get me wrong, I'm not asking questions here for you to add to the district where I represented. No. I just speak for the districts with large population, large land area, pero ang liit-liit at ang daming needs, pero ang liit. So, palaisipan. And I speak for the indigenous peoples there, the Ati and the Iraynons who cannot speak and talk to you ever in their lives. Buti na lang yung aking regional director, taga Bugasong, at alam niyang ibig ko sabihin. Yeah, yung nakakaantig ng puso yung ganun. Tapos ito, papakita ko sa inyo. Gusto kong i-flash eh. Yung NEP at yung regional budget allocation per capita. Lihis, how do you say it? It doesn't make sense at all. It doesn't make sense at all. So, I want to understand. Oo. Di ba usually sa NEP, tapos sa GAB lumalaki, pagdating ng Senado, kami nahubaran. Binagsak talaga. Nagalit talaga sa akin ng DPWH, tinanggal lahat. Yun. Sige, thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, again, and I said this the last time, the last hearing. I think there is really an inherent flaw in the current formula that is being used, no, to allocate resources, limited resources, to various districts, and clearly this is seen in the budget now in 2026. No, and unfortunately, the new team had no role in the preparation of this budget, but we do see the inherent flaws. In fact,
Sorry, hindi po. Nagbago po yung numero sa NEP revised under your term already.
yes, I understand, ma'am, but
Hinubaran yung aming mga distrito, yung
yes,
akin.
yes, I think na ang mostly tingin ko ang tumama po doon are the locally flood control. No, pero tama po kayo doon sa inyong observation kanina na kung tinanggalan ang isang area ng halimbawa flood control, dapat yon ay pinalitan ng equally if not even more important na mga proyekto. Tama po yon. And ano po, no? And I think that can still be done given the potential for possibility for institutional and committee amendments. No, we can still do that. But I think what I was saying about the formula, yung pong unang pagpasok pa lang sa NEP, yun po ay pinagbasehan ng isang formula na frankly, kahit kami pong mga nasa bagong team, hindi po talaga namin maintindihan. No, hindi namin maintindihan. Unfortunately, dinatnan na lang namin yon. But right now, Undersecretary Conti, I can who can speak more to this, is already in the process of finding a simpler and a more equitable formula to distribute resources moving forward. No, in fact, kailangan na ho talagang gawin ito dahil obviously it's not just this year, ma'am, I'm sure na nangyari ito. No, this is probably repeatedly been the case for smaller districts like Antique and others who have unfortunately gotten the shorter end of the stick for so
note
long.
that it's not a smaller district dahil lone district siya,
Yes.
mas malaki ang land area.
That's right.
Pareho rin ang population. Kailan yung iba, 2 distrito, tapos i-add mo yung 2 distrito sa isang distrito ay kami ang pinakamaliit. At saka hindi lang naman ako, marami rin ibang distrito na siguro malayo sa kusina, hindi nakakahingi. At nahihiya din ako, maski senador ako matagal, hindi pala hingi. At kung humihingi man, tas hindi natutupad, hindi yung binibigay, di hinayaan lang namin. Pero we must correct this disparity. At saka ayokong mag-amend sa distrito na pinanggalingan ko. Make it an institutional amendment para naman hindi lopsided na ganun. Hindi lang ako, tignan po nyo lahat at wag naman galing sa amin. Tas ano yung pangangailangan? In fact, para walang korupsyon, di lagay nyo classrooms. Kaya lang, hindi nyo budget yon. So, pwede nyo gawin, sabi ng LBRMO, multi-purpose buildings / school building. Pwede daw yon, which is under your budget. So, hindi sa ako'y humihingi, sinasabi ko yan para in full transparency and accountability, yung mga naaping distrito na halintulad po sa akin, kukompute yung populasyon at land area, kung papalitan nyo, siguro wag ng roads, wag ng multi-purpose school buildings kasi sabi ni Sani, ang laki-laki ng pangangailangan sa school buildings. Anyway, kayo rin mag-i-implement noon. That's a manifestation, Mr. Chair, as an institutional amendment. I'm not just referring to 1 or 2 districts. Para hindi magbukang, nag-amend, nagtanong siya, kaya nalaki ang distrito, ayoko pong ganun. I will refuse any additional allocation just because I'm asking. And I speak to many districts. Nahiya lang yung ibang congressman. At saka wag natin titignan kasi yung need according to political boundaries. May I
Mr.
hear
Chair, you are absolutely correct. And I guess we will do 2 things, ma'am. First of all, we will work with the committee to find a way to more equitably provide for the needs of the districts via institutional amendments. And second, we are already in the process of fixing this clearly non-responsive and ineffectual formula that has been used for so long into something that, as you correctly pointed out, needs-based. Yung kung sino po ang mas nangangailangan, dapat yun po ang mas may nakukuhang pondo galing sa national government. Thank you, ma'am.
And wag po kayo hihingi sana ng karagdagang pondo within your agency. Correct the institutional, how do you say it, mistake, inequity. Yeah, institutional inequity. To correct it, wag, ulitin ko po, hindi lang yung akin na sinight. Yun lang kasi ang alam ko, kaya sinight ko. Marami pang halintulad po sa akin. Yun. So, thank you for that.
We agree po.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Chair, thank you so
reasonable naman
much.
ako, di ba? O naman, ayun yun. O naman. Sige, maybe LBRMO can work together with the staff of the chair. Oo. And with your planning.
With our planning team,
Yes.
so we can...
And I repeat, hindi po flood control, pero actually hindi masama kasi binabaha tayo, di ba, Pruto? Oo, binabaha. Pero dahil bawal, okay, bawal ngayon. Oo, sige. Pero papakita ko sa inyo ang maayos na flood control. Ang maayos sa flood control. Nakita yan ni Senator Pia Cayetano, meron nga kami marathon na gagawin doon sa Esplanade. Napakagaling. Napakaganda. Hindi flood control yun, actually Esplanade. Parang yung sa Iloilo River nila, Senator Drilon. Esplanade. Flood mitigation structure yun eh. Yeah, Iloilo at saka yung sa amin. Papakita ko sa iyo. Ang nakita mo yun. Ganda-ganda. Ganda-ganda. Flood mitigation structure kaya hindi nagbabaha. May Esplanade patuloy. Anyway, so on the cost of roads of DA, nabanggit na ng Cherry to pero gusto ko rin maintindihan. Magkano ba talaga per meter ba ang sinasabi? Magkano ang per meter ng cost benchmark ng farm to market road na same width and may roadside ditches or canals? Magkano ba talaga?
Mr. Chair, Madam
Yes.
Senator, may I just ask our OIC Undersecretary,
Yes. Okay.
Engineer Esquivel
Our
to
very
respond?
engineer. I'd
Opo.
like to learn from her.
Ay, good
Apo.
afternoon po. Based on the July 2025 rates po, we're ranging from 18,000 to 26,000 per meter.
Bakit pag DPWH, ang taas sa notes ko nga 15,000 eh. Pero sabi ni sa hearing sa'yo, ni DA, Sec Laurel,
Iba, ranging.
sa kanila, sa kanilang measurement, 10,000 per meter is sufficient. He even implied a 1/3 savings given apples to apples, assuming this is correct. Yes, thank you.
Mr. Chair, Madam Senator, I think it's important to note that, as correctly pointed out by Senator Lauren earlier, the President already directed us to bring down the cost of materials. So, in all likelihood, that number is going to go down significantly. So, if you will allow us, maybe if we will run our computations based on the new cost of materials, we can maybe by the end of this week already give you a new range, no, for the range per meter for, hindi na po yun. Definitely it will not be that anymore.
Mr. Chair is 32B. Oo. Kung sa DA budget, ang FMR ay 32B, sabi ng Chair, at itong kilometro ang magagawa, kung yung inyong 18,000, sabi ni Sec Laurel ay 10,000, di halos madodoble, di ba? 80% na mai-increase ang haba ng FMR, gaya ng puntos natin sa classroom. So, simple, pag papati ng bahay, di ba? Hindi mo mababayaran yung contractor pag nalaman mo midway na, i-ano natin yung kontrata, ayusin. Ito, hindi pa naman tayo nagsimula sa 2026, hahaba. So, ibig sabihin po, sa DA budget or isumitin nyo sa amin, kayo implementing agency, i-check natin, hahaba ang mga FMRs at dapat may coordinates. Thank you.
Opo, and correct po, and in fact, even with respect to classroom, dadami po ang pwede nating itayong classroom dahil sa pagbaba ng detailed unit price ng DPWH. Thank you po.
Thank you for that. Health centers. From the DOH itself, about 300 super health centers built nationwide, mostly by DPWH, were found non-operational, hindi natapos, substandard, etc. I'm not talking about walang gamot o walang tao. It's really kulang o hindi natapos na structures. And second, maaring may mga natapos pero wala naman utilities or staffing na hindi po nyo problema, but when you build, do you coordinate with the LGU or with DOH to ensure that, okay, you will build, may nag-request na politiko, pero wala naman provision ang DOH for staffing or for utilities. So, do you just build blind? O basta build kami without coordinating with the agency na may kapasidad sila for staffing? Thank you.
Right now po, ma'am, I mean, there is coordination, but the coordination with the local governments for these projects with DepEd or with DOH is being done by the lead agency, in this case, the DOH. No? But you're absolutely right. I think that needs room for improvement. No? Because clearly, marami pong mga sitwasyon ngayon na nakita na natin na more coordination is needed. No? Dahil nga po, yung areas na nakatayo na yung building pero wala pang kuryente, nakatayo na yung building pero wala pa ring tubig. So this requires, mahirap po kasi yung turuan, so dapat magtulong-tulong na lang po. So we will see, we will work with the DOH and the DepEd and the other agencies so we can coordinate better, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair, how do we help DPWH do this? Kasi taga-tayo sila. Pero hindi pa pag nagtatayo, dapat tanungin sila sa nagpapatayo. O magtatayo kami. Sapat ba yung pondo mo? Sabi na, ay kulang kasi ng 1 million, hihingi naman next year. So, it's a structure na hindi tapos. May mga ganyan, yan. Ganun palagi nakikita when we go around, right? Or, itayo, maayos, pero hindi naman napondohan yung equipment at yung staffing kasi magre-request pa sa DBM o walang gamot. So, karapatan nyo magtanong, itatayo namin to. Handa ba kayong ahensya nagpapagawa, maglagay ng staff at ng pasilidad? Kung hindi, ba't itatayo? Pero hindi ba nila tungkulin yun na may silbi yung tinatayo nila? At tanong sa ahensyang nagbabudget na linilipat sa kanila yung budget, right?
If I can intervene, Senator Lauren, in fact yan ang isang malaking problema rin ng Department of Health through HFEP, yung health equipment and facilities. Dahil dapat, bago sila nagpapatayo, meron ng coordination with the local government units. Dahil yung LGU, sila bahala sa doktor, nurse, equipment, at yung pang day-to-day to operate. Like for example, kuryente, tubig. But marami rin mga LGU nagsasabi na, hindi namin kaya magkumuha ng doktor, hindi namin kaya magbayad ng kuryente. Kaya na ano rin sila, na walang nagmamando ng mga health centers. No? DPWH, in fairness, is just constructing. Kung anong pinakonstruct, ko-construct. Pero yung operating DOH, malaking problema rin yan sa DOH right now. That's why we have to look at the HFEP funds, which is about 14 billion, very closely. Dahil nasasayang, maraming pondo dun, unfinished hospitals, unfinished rural health centers, unoccupied super health centers. Nasasayang lang yung pondo natin sa health. No?
So how do we deal with that? Is it the DOH sole responsibility? Or before they build, they must ensure that the agency asking them to build has the capacity to operate it, so it's not like a white elephant that was built?
Fund ho talaga, ma'am. Admittedly, nangyari. So, this coming 2026, ang iniisip ko to move forward with the HFEP, wala mo ng mga new super health centers, new rural health centers. Tapusin na muna natin lahat ng mga uncompleted. Lagyan ng tao yung mga unoperational. At yung mga hospitals, marami ho tayong, we approve here in the Senate yung mga hospitals, di ba? Expansion and newly created. Let's fund those expansion and newly created hospitals. Dahil may batas, wala namang pondo. No? So we have to fund them. So yung muna yung naiisip ko to move forward with this. So para hindi nanganganak yung problema.
And if I may po, Mr. Chairman, Madam Senator, that on the super health centers or the hospitals, ang commitment naman po namin is we will work with DOH to ensure naman yung mga ospital at mga healthcare centers na bitin. No, yung pong sinasabi ni Senator Loren na yung nakausli yung mga bakal, hindi pa tapos, kailangan po tapusin na, no, finally. And we really welcome the policy now po na wala munang new, tapusin muna natin yung mga hindi pa tapos, and then DOH can ensure that they are operated properly. We welcome that, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much for that.
Ako muna, ma'am. I just have just one question lang. Nawala to. Nawala. Anyways, can you flash yung news report ni Presidente? So, ito yung news over the weekend, Secretary Dizon, about the comment of the President na nakita nyo overpriced by 50%, no, yung mga materials. In fact, in some instances, in fact, pinag-uusapan lang to natin last hearing, and he said we can save as much as 45 billion pesos, no. We agree that in some projects, it can go as high as thousands ka nakita natin. Pero may mga projects rin na mababa. Maraming projects actually, in fairness to the different engineering offices, mababa siya or justified. No, so, ang way forward na naisip natin dito is to submit to us yung materials cost, no? And from there, we will use that as a basis to implement the projects. No? But in your opinion, how do we, this is a welcome development, a welcome comment by the President, but how do we operationalize this, no? In your opinion?
Mr. Chairman, this is a very, very good question. No? So, first of all, I think, if I may request po, give us some time to finalize the new prices, no, the adjustment in the prices. We think we can do that in roughly a week, no, and that will form part of the new costs, no, moving forward, no. Now, in terms of operationalizing it sa budget, no, 2026 po muna siguro tayo, no. For 2026, if I may make a suggestion, Mr. Chairman, baka po the best course of action will be to come up with a special provision in the budget, essentially stating that savings generated from the reduction of the cost of materials, no, the new cost of materials, must be, and we leave it up to Congress to decide on what to do here, but the savings must be used for very specific items, no, like maybe a menu similar to the menu of the DBM for infrastructure projects, or other expense items, no, in the 2026 budget. No, because definitely po for 2026, magkakaroon po ng malaking savings when we implement the cost of materials, the new cost of materials. So I think the most efficient way to do it is really to just ensure that the savings generated from this for next year will be used the right way, no, based on the wisdom of Congress. No, I think that is the best way to move forward. Now, for 2025 po, no, because there are still, I think, projects that will undergo procurement, no, what we will be doing is we will also be applying the same change in cost to these projects which will have a natural adjustment in the ABC, no, in the approved budget of the contract, no, and that again will be generated as savings for 2025. So that is just our initial proposal, but we give it up to the wisdom of Congress, Mr. Chairman.
Because we want to, ito yung pinag-uusapan natin, Senator Laura, no? And we want to reflect that savings hopefully in the budget so that we can utilize that funds for other purposes, no? Para magamit rin natin to build more schools or build more infrastructure projects. So we want to capture that. Estimate nga ni Presidente 45, no? Estimate nga namin is around 70 to 80 billion, no? But more or less nasa ganun na range na siya. So that's what we want to capture. The last time we talked, you will submit to us an updated DUPA. No?
We will submit an updated CMPD.
CMPD and
Yes,
CMPD also.
CMPD, which translates to the new DUPA.
Okay.
So we
Okay.
will be submitting that. Kaya ba natin ang Biyernes? Okay, the team says we can submit also by Friday. So we can submit everything already by Friday.
By Friday. Okay.
Opo.
That will be good kasi doon natin makikita yung pagbaba ng presyo.
Opo. Opo.
And then yun ang gagamitin namin as a basis to capture that savings.
The savings.
No?
And ma-estimate na rin po, no, yung magiging savings generated.
Open kami, Secretary, kung meron kayong suggested language on the special provision. Because I can see that you're very open in using those savings. So we're very open if you have any suggestion to that. We can work together on that. No?
Sige po, we will in our cover letter we will provide
Yeah.
suggested language to that effect,
Basta
Mr. Chairman.
ang concept natin, magamit yung savings, whether
Yes.
it's 45 or 70 or 80, makapture natin yun,
Opo.
magamit sa iba.
Tama po.
Alright, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Have an intervention after you about the savings.
Tapos na po ako.
Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, for bringing up the issue of savings. That was actually my next question before I asked for a break. So, hindi pa po nasagot, hindi pa po na-compute, no? But you said by Friday on the total computation or estimate of savings for the 2026, right? Because naka-flash kanina sa screen, and thank you to the President and to the good Secretary about the lowering of the DUPA. But more than the lowering of the DUPA, meron pa rin ibang pagkukuhanan ng savings. Kasama na ba sa DUPA the cost of equipment rental, overhead contingency, and miscellaneous, yung OCM? Kasama na sa DUPA. Iba pa. Dapat ibaba din yun. Yung cost of equipment rental, overhead contingency, miscellaneous expense, and yung projected contractor's profit. Iba?
Mr. Chair, as for the equipment rental, no,
Baka
this is
overpriced din yun eh.
this is based on apparently a guidebook na yun lang po ang basis ng DPWH. It's called the ASEL guidebook. Maybe I can ask OIC Undersecretary Esquivel to explain the ASEL guidebook. And then the indirect costs and labor, obviously, ito po ay hindi po kasama ito sa mga gagawin. Ang gagawin lang po natin is the cost of materials. No? Cost of materials po. Opo. And with your permission, Mr. Chairman, Madam Senator, maybe I can just ask OIC Undersecretary. Lara, okay ka ba? Sige po.
I want to understand, yung cost of materials, kung overpriced yan, hindi ba baka rin naka-overpriced lahat eh? Pati yung contingency, yung miscellaneous, yung equipment rental, overhead. Bloated lahat yan.
Um,
Kasi sa ibang ahensyang inupuan namin, lahat bloated eh. Yung subscription sa monthly nung Starlink coverage sa isang ahensya, grabing taas din eh.
Yeah.
So magandang, hindi masamang silipin lahat, di ba?
Opo.
Baka-
Sisilipin po namin, Madam Senator, but maybe just to provide context and information, may I ask that OIC Undersecretary Lara be recognized just to explain all the components of the pricing of a certain project or a certain contract.
Thank you, Sec. Good afternoon po. For the direct cost, we subdivided into three components: the material, labor, and equipment. As mentioned earlier, the material we use as reference the construction materials price data, which is issued by DPWH. But for labor, we follow the DOLE, Department of Labor and Employment Memorandum. So we follow their rates. And then for the equipment component, we use the Association for Carriers and Equipment Lessors Equipment Guidebook. This is approved for use by DPWH. So external guidebooks po for labor and equipment.
Thank you for that, OIC USEC Lara. Thank you for using that. Sa labor, wag niyong tipirin ng labor. I mean, yan ako talaga ibigay sa tao. In fact, sa site ko na naman, yung Antique, dahil sa pagbaba ng NEP revised, 75% ng mga trabahador, laborers, mawawalan ng trabaho sa 2026. So, ganyan kami nagpapaapi. Wag naman. So, ang labor, wag natin. Okay yan. Siguro naman walang ghost labor dyan, di ba? Wag naman. Pero yung sabi niyong guidebook, kayo pong mga engineers nakakaintindi niyan, kung tama po at hindi po overpriced. Yeah. So, yun lang ang aking, kasi yung materials binaba na, yung ibang mga aspects ng construction, tignan natin kung meron pang mga butas that we allowed it all these years na maari pang makatipid. So yung hinihingi ng chair na savings ay gusto namin makita by this week at para ma-allocate ng maayos. Okay, so another source of savings, if I may, would be questionable 2025 projects. This has not yet been discussed, I think, although parang hagip kanina you mentioned na yung iba wawasakin kasi nakakasama. So, aside from yung wawasakin, pero sabi niyo pag-aaralan dahil sa COA and all of that, pag dangerous, I believe there's still 1 trillion worth in projects being implemented or na for later release, kung i-release ba yon. So, what do you do with those already being implemented but based on the cost of materials, alam nyo na na-overprice? Dapat mag-renegotiate at dapat ay ibaba yung presyo maski may kontrata dahil pwede naman yan, may mga provisions naman sa Government Procurement Act. Hindi tayo dapat patuloy na magpaloko sa mga nag-overprice at tutuwirin we're just going to straighten out in 2026 while allowing 1 trillion, assuming my figures are correct, worth of projects to be overpriced while the President has taken a very laudable move. I am certain the President would be happy to hear from the good Secretary how the presently substandard or rigged or overpriced projects, whichever the case is, there could be some savings to be generated. Thank you.
Madam Chair, as I mentioned earlier po, for 2025, for those that have not yet been procured, we will apply already the new cost of materials, the lower cost of materials to those. So there will be savings clearly generated from that. For those that have already been awarded and are already ongoing, we will have to consult with the OSG po, Mr. Chairman, Madam Senator, on what course of action can be taken. Unfortunately, I cannot say right now, but we will consult on paano natin mahahabol if kaya yung mga ongoing na at awarded na. But for those na hindi pa, definitely po, we will apply the new cost already. We will not wait for 2026. We will apply the new costs already now. Thank you, Madam Chair.
May we receive, please, from the engineering districts, which are these projects not yet implemented that can generate savings from renegotiated contracts based on the President's advisory on lowering DUPA? And second, ongoing projects, pero alam naman yung linoloko tayo bago ba yung bagong team pumasok, maaari naman yung i-terminate. Nagawa na nyo sa ibang distrito, di ba?
Yes. In fact, we have terminated several already based on the cases that have been filed as well as the licenses that have been canceled. So there is a clear process po, Mr. Chairman, Madam Senator, and we've already terminated several already, particularly all the contracts of the Diskaya companies as well as their joint venture partners, as well as the other companies where we have filed cases such as Wawaw, Sims, etc. So we will consult with the Office of the Solicitor General and we will see paano natin mahahabol ito.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The DPWH can actually do a sweep of these projects ongoing for 2025, terminate those that it can terminate, or renegotiate for a lower price based on the President's advisory on lower DUPA, so that we can generate more savings bigger than what was already conveyed to us. Okay. May I know the process after the DPWH has given us the estimated savings? It is up to the committee to reallocate it in structures that are certain will not be prone to corruption, right?
Madam Senator, Mr. Chairman, I think the approach will be to have a special provision in the 2026 budget that because clearly whatever savings we will estimate is still estimated savings, no? Meaning depende pa po yung actual savings kapag yung mga project na yan ay na award na next year, no? Kasi may bidding process pa po yan. So we were suggesting po that a special provision be crafted so that the savings, actual savings generated in 2026 from the DPWH budget will be utilized to fund a very clear menu of projects, of services that of course will come from Congress. No, so I think this is the approach po, because while we can give an estimated amount, it is still estimated, ma'am. Hindi po siya pwede talagang maano. Thank you po.
There are two ways, Mr. Chair. Yung mga sigurado na sila, kasi na-convey na nyo sa news na may savings na kayong 50, tapos yung additional na mako-compute po nyo hanggang Biyernes, we have, you as Chair, we have the authority na yun ang pool na paggagamitan sa iba. Pero yung special provision is useful dahil sa karagdagang savings. Pero hindi lahat ipagpaliban sa next year. Yung kaya ng desisyonan dahil na-convey na nyo na may X amount na savings, pwede na rin yun. Yeah. Diba? Kasi
Mr. Chairman, we leave it up to the wisdom of Congress.
But I leave it to the
Thank you.
judgment of the Chair.
I think, Secretary Senator Lauren, ang pinakamalinis is for those projects to be amended down.
Now na, gusto ko nga ngayon
But you have
special
to tell
provision
us,
gray area.
kasi ang dami, we're talking about 14,000 projects eh. Some of them are low, some of them, based on our analysis, some of them are justified. In fairness, hindi lahat rin overpriced. Marami ring overpriced, no? But for us to go through that 14,000 plus, hindi natin kaya yun, ma'am, because we don't have the manpower and also the technical know-how. But if we can leave it to DPWH to give us those items na talagang obviously mataas, and then based on your new CMPD, pwedeng bumaba, then ibigay nyo na sa amin para i-amend na namin directly in the budget. No? And then we can realize the savings. That is the pinakamalinis na paraan.
Mr. Chairman, Madam Senator, I think, well, just consulting our technical people here, they are telling me that it is virtually impossible po to do that at this point given the limited time available na unang-una ho, mahirap po kasing mamili lang ng kung ano ang babawasan, ano ang hindi. Obviously the program of works are different across projects. So it might be virtually impossible for us to do that, no, given the limited time, no. But we will leave it up to the discretion of Congress if you will reduce, no, on a project per project. But I guess we are just being honest that it might be difficult, no, for us to go through all the 14,000 or so, close to 20,000, I think, no, project line items, no. I mean, if this was January or February, I mean, beginning of the budget, I think we can do that. But unfortunately, it might be impossible to do that at this point.
Yeah, but I think the objective, ma'am, is to save, no? So we'll find a way. I'll consult with Senator Loren and also the member Senator JV on how to make that happen. No? Kasi may time constraint tayo eh.
Yes.
We're going to open the TWG this Wednesday. Tuloy-tuloy na yan, no? Tuloy-tuloy na. Yeah.
Yes, and also, Mr. Chairman, it's also, I think, important to consider as well, no, the reduction in the cost of materials for other agencies as well, no, because that is also that will also be another source of savings as well, no. But again, limited time might be difficult to adjust in the other departments as well. So maybe special provisions to that effect, as you described earlier, might be the most efficient way of doing it. At least for the next year, for 2026. But obviously for 2027, lahat po magbabago na yan.
Submit to us yung CMPD.
Yes,
and
we
the
will
DUPA.
submit the CMPD and also the corresponding estimate of the effect on the capital outlay.
Okay, sige.
Opo.
Okay, sige.
Thank you very much,
Pag-isipan
Mr.
namin.
Chairman.
I'll consult also with
Opo.
our budget experts.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
We recognize Senator Hercito.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Anyway, while waiting for Senator Loren, actually last week na I already raised my concerns, no. But hearing today, just listening, it's sad to hear that there was really no coordination, no, according to Secretary Dizon, with especially for flood control projects. There was no coordination with DNR because they are the experts doon po sa water sa river basins kung saan pupunta, no, yung flow. Senator Legarda is correct, we cannot fight nature, no. We have to go with it or work with it, no. This strengthens yung ating pong proposal last week, no, and which was supported by Secretary Dizon, yung pong creation ng Department of Water and Resource Management, so that there will be no more disconnect again, no. Dapat yung pong siguro itong itong agency ni Jose Carlo should be with the folded into the new Department of Water Management. It will address yung water scarcity because the world is already because of the growing population, yung pong water is becoming a scarcer resource every day. Tama po sila, no, yung binanggit ni Jose Carlos David, that we should, yung pong dapat, infrastructure will not just divert water and throw it in the ocean. We should, in fact, impound it and restore it so that during the dry season, meron ho tayong pandilig, no? Sabi ko nga, every every rainy season we have abundant supply, sobra-sobra yung tubig natin. Pero pag dry season, wala naman tayong tubig. And sad to say that there are, Mr. Chair, nakakalungkot na marinig na kay Secretary Dizon mismo that there are some flood control projects that worsened. And from Music Carlos David also, the situation, kasi nga bumilis yung flow ng tubig, walang pampabagal, walang impounding. So, I think, siguro for na-bash tayo last week, no? Sa mga netizens, sabi lang, creation of water department, Department of Water, dapat may Department of Fire daw and soil and everything. But this is not a laughing matter. I think water is getting scarcer every day the world over, and I think yung flood control, management of water has to be under one full-fledged department para hindi na ito maulit muli. We have seen, Mr. Chair, yung disconnect, no, na nakakalungkot na Secretary Dizon already said na coming from him, that most of the projects had no coordination with the Water Resource Management Office. Sila po yung merong expertise, no? Kung saan po yung daloy ng river basins and all. So, yun. Sec Dizon, thank you very much for your support, no, for two bills that I have in mind, no, yung master plan for infrastructure and national development, and also yung a lot of our colleagues filed yung pong creation of Department of Water and Resource Management. I think this is timely, no. Unang-una, maano na natin tubig natin, we will use it wisely and at the same time prevent yung pong nangyaring mga floodgates scandal from happening. Anyway, doon po sa the President said that 250 billion of flood control project will be realigned to other programs, most especially social programs, no? So, but there will still be 100 billion, Sec Dizon, that will be used, o wala na, talagang totally.
Mr. Chairman, wala na po. Ang matitira lang po for flood control are the foreign assisted projects assisted by JICA, ADB, and World Bank, roughly about 15 billion pesos.
So the entire 250 billion will be realigned for social program. Ang ano ko lang doon, Mr. Chair, because government spending, especially for infrastructure, is a driver for economic growth, di ba? Siguro maganda, I would like to propose to the President, if given the chance, that probably half of the 250 billion be still used for infrastructure, specifically for, halimbawa, since DPWH ay still undergoing reforms, hanggang di pa tapos, pwede ilagay sa DOTR to. Total, galing naman si Sec Dizon sa DOTR. For airports, for ports, and other economic drivers in infrastructure, at least tuloy-tuloy po yung spending natin for infra, and it will also have returns. Kasi hindi naman sa pagano, Mr. Chair, kung ilalagay lahat natin to sa ayuda.ax, there's no return. Diba? Iba yung infrastructure because this is an investment for the future, to stimulate economic growth, to create growth areas. So yun po yung ano ko siguro, no? Meron akong breakdown dito, siguro half of it nilagay natin sa DOTR for ports, airports, and other major infra. Dapat infra din, di ba, Mr. Chair, para hindi sayang, para yung, as I said, the multiplier effect, yung economic drivers, dapat tuloy pa rin. Siguro, DOTR would get half probably. Siguro, for social programs na gusto ni Presidente, at least may impact po. For health, okay po ako doon, no? MAIP, PhilHealth, that is really felt by the people, no? Kasi kung AX lang, ang hirap doon, hindi natin, that's cash. It's also prone to temptation, no? Mas okay ni MAIP direktang na tulong sa. And also, Mr. Chairman, siguro si Sen. Loren will agree. Yung one time, big time lang tayo magkakaroon 250 billion na biglang, meron tayong that we can use for other programs na dati pangarap lang, no? We can fund MAIP, we can add for MAIP, UAC, PhilHealth, and HFEP, no? Lalo na improvement of hospitals, no? All over. Of course, i-balance na natin. Department of National Defense, talagang pangarap na lang talaga yung EAP modernization. But with this, lagyan natin ng a few billions for yung ating multi-role fighters, especially with the situation now in the West Philippine Sea. Coast Guard, ang laki nito, 250 billion eh. No? But glad to hear that meron pa rin namang flood control projects, yung po mga foreign assisted. So hopefully by next year, we can resume na maayos na kasi we cannot, hindi rin naman natin pwedeng isacrifice to for the next 2 to 3 years. Otherwise, kawawa rin yung mga kababayan nating malulubog. So, yun po. Again, we'd like to thank Secretary Dizon for the support for yung pong master plan natin na measure, and also yung pong project, ito yung ating Department of Water Management, Resource Management. I think it's already timely, no, na magkaroon na ng coordination, no, and planning that ang banggit nga ni Senator Loren, dapat nature-based, no, hindi yung engineering-based lamang, at yung district ang nasusunod dati. Nakakalungkot, pero parang may yung mga pinresent kanina ni Jose Carlos David, may mga hindi nakakonekta. No, yung mga binanggit ko last hearing, there are some projects na talagang pinroject lang na at least it was confirmed, no, that there are dikes na wala namang pinoproteksyon ng community. May nakita rin po akong seawall, sinumbong ko na rin kay Secretary Dizon, seawall na napakalaki. Hindi mo na makita yung dagat, wala naman din pinoproteksyon ng community. So, that's all, Mr. Chair. I just gave you my observations this afternoon. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may
Yes,
po.
go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, Senator JV. Let me just po reiterate what the President's directive was when he instructed to remove the 250 plus billion from flood control. Ang priority po talaga niya, obviously, yung PhilHealth, 60 billion, I think, roughly. And of course, yung ating pong mga social programs. Pero sa infrastructure naman po, sinabi din po niya, no, kasama ang ating mga school buildings, kasama ho ang ating mga farm-to-market roads, at kasama din po ang ibang mga programa ng DOTR, pati na rin po ang Department of Energy. So, ano naman po, no, wide-ranging naman po ang kanyang mga sinuggest na I think reflect na rin po ng lower house General Appropriations Bill. Thank you very much again, Mr. Chairman.
I agree
Senator
with
JV.
Senator JV na yung matitipid natin sa infra, dapat malipat sa infra rin. No, because infra has a tremendous multiplier effect. Alam ni Secretary Dizon yan eh. And kung hindi natin ililipat sa infra yan, mawawala yung multiplier effect, Senator JV. So, I agree that we can, pag sinabi naman infra, kasama dito airports, seaports, no, other transportation modalities. Maybe this is the time to look for some projects in the transportation sector, which the Secretary headed once upon a time. No? So, thank you for that intervention, Senator JV. Senator Lauren?
Just to note that there is no need for a special provision for the GAA 2026 because it is already in the general provision of the GAA that the agency may augment their savings, and the savings is already defined in the GAA. Yes. So, nandyan na. And DBM is here, right? Tama. Yeah.
Secretary Dizon wants to specify yung savings dapat pumunta sa specific project. I think that is the concept.
Yes, Mr. Chair, Madam Senator, you're absolutely correct po under the general provisions. But under the general provisions, from what I understand, the savings generated will be limited for use within the DPWH. Maybe, yeah. So,
Paki-clarify,
kasi yun
DBM.
po ang pagkakaintindi. Kasi
ASEC, go ahead. ASEC.
ASEC,
kung gano'n, hindi magagamit
Mary
sa
Ann,
iba.
specify yung general provision, paliwanag po ninyo para malaman po natin kung kailangan pa ng special provision maliban sa general provision, pero sang-ayon ako sa sinabi ng chair na yung kaya nang masave ngayon, i-reallocate na natin sa ibang infrastruktura, at ang aming bias, aaminin ko, ay edukasyon para sa school building. Kasi pwede naman kayo naman gumagawa multi-purpose building / school building. Pero paliwanag po ninyo yung sinabi nyo na hindi na kailangan pero baka kailangan ng special.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Chair. As far as the savings are concerned, if we are looking at the savings ng DPWH and it wanted to use it ng within DPWH rin lang and within the same activity, then we're talking about modification lang. And the approval of that is within the DBM. That's provided for under the general provisions. But if we're thinking of augmentation, meaning making use of the savings to another activity of the DPWH or another activity of a different agency, then we would be needing the approval from the Office of the President. So we term that as augmentation. That's why we say that the special provision will no longer be required for as long as the definition of savings are within what is provided for also under the general provisions, Mr. Chair.
Pag DOTR, oo, kailangan ng OP. So, kailangan ng special. Pag DepEd, kailangan ng special. Pero actually, DepEd hindi kasi sila naman ang gagawa. Pwede ng multipurpose/school building, it will stay with them. Oo. Okay. So,
Yes,
mas simple
yes,
pag
Mr.
DepEd. I'm sure gusto ng mga kasamahan ko pag school building. Oo. Oo naman. Sige. Kung mga bata, siksikan sa mga classroom. Sige. Okay, thank you. The classroom kanina, yung single facility na classroom. Magkano ba talaga? Kasi pinag-usapan natin yung health center, pinag-usapan natin yung FMR. It was observed that classrooms built as a single facility, let's say, one classroom building, magkano ba talaga pag DPWH? And how do you measure it per square meter? Given the same kind of materials.
Yeah. Mr. Chair, Madam Senator, I'll ask OIC Undersecretary Lara to respond. But again, let me just place a caveat that the numbers she will tell you are still the old numbers. These will decrease drastically within the next week or so because of our adjustments in the cost of materials. Undersecretary, please.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon po again. For the estimate, we use po cost per square meter. So I'll give a range from different regions. It's ranging from 24,000 to 33,700 per square meter for the previous CMPD.
Know very well that from the private sector, yung Chinese chamber nga 8,000 pero baka naman iba yung materials doon. Walang tax on profit. Sabi mo na mga lahati. Ewan ko, hindi ako engineer pero sigurado ako mas mababa dyan. So, kung yung DepEd school building program ay 28.056 billion, so sa estimate ng DPWH ay this will cover 12,000 classrooms. Kung ikakalahati mo yan, you will have 10,627 more classrooms, but this would be depending if we use a lower unit cost to 1.2 million. That perhaps, Mr. Chair, can be discussed in a technical working group because we're talking about costs. These are just estimates. So, ibig sabihin, yung sinabi po ni OIC Yusek Lara ay sabihin mo ng mga lahati, sabihin mo na conservative 40%, so i-compute po ninyo yung square meters ng classroom, lalaki ang numero ng classroom. Tama ba ho? Oo. Pangalawa po, yung savings na sinabi po ni Chair kanina na gusto niya ngayon na i-allocate, wag na ipa-savings, wag na pag-antayin ng mga tao, yung sa kay Presidente pa lang ay 50B na yon, assuming lang sa classrooms para hindi na umalis sa DPWH hindi na OP approval, it will be multipurpose/school buildings, i-increase si number of classrooms maliban sa pag-slash ng 40% ng cost. So, more than the 10,627 more classrooms, si 50 billion pa, assuming hindi mapunta nga sa AIX at sa iba-iba, na mahaba pa ang proseso, mag-OP approval pa if it stays with them. So that's just my sincere and honest and well-meaning recommendation, and I would assume pag classroom, hindi naman siguro mandadaya, hindi naman siguro mag-ghost, hindi naman sigurong subject to anomalya o corruption, at magiginhawahan ang ating sektor na basic education. Yun po ang aking katanungan. Yeah. Okay, Mr. Chair.
Lumabas lang po si Secretary, but before he left, he's aligned with your observation, Senator Lauren, when it comes to the possible use, which is to utilize that for the classroom, Mr. Chair.
The other questions would be dependent kasi on their submission of the allocable and non-allocable in the NEP revised of September. And it would be dependent also on the savings that you can already compute. So I leave it to the chair what to do. Kasi we cannot work on assumptions. Gusto natin ay fact-based. At yung pangatlo, talaga yung i-mainstream natin ang water studies at nature-based solutions para may pagbabago. So, hindi lang po yung pagbaba ng dupa at pababa ng cost, at saka yung mungkahi ko po na hindi lang yung cost of materials, kundi yung iba pang cost, maski na alam natin, hindi naman dinadaya yan, silipin na rin natin, wala naman masamang sumilip sa lahat, di ba po? Yeah.
Mr. Chair, Madam Senator, you have our commitment to do that as well. Mr. Chairman, sorry, we just realized that Friday is a holiday, so we will submit by Thursday afternoon. Well, no.
Friday is 31.
Friday, tama si Director Alex, Friday is holiday. 30.
Anyway, we will submit, but definitely at the latest by Friday, if not earlier po.
The foreign-assisted projects are seemingly successful. So, may I just know what's the difference and why don't we use those doing the foreign-assisted projects in auditing and monitoring all the local infrastructure projects? Thank you.
May I respond to that? That's a great question po, Mr. Chairman. First of all, the reason for the success of the foreign-assisted projects is that they are well planned. I think that is the foundation that is lacking in what we have seen, in the past years. That foreign-assisted projects are well planned, backed up by a very solid feasibility study, backed up by very serious detailed engineering work, and may plano po talaga. And obviously monitored by the funders, by the lending institutions. That's why it's very successful. Now, to the question, can the locally funded projects be implemented or monitored by the team that does the foreign assisted projects? That is quite difficult, Mr. Chairman, because of the sheer volume of locally funded projects on a district level. And the UPMO, who is in charge of the foreign assisted, kakaunti lang po talaga sila. They're really a handful of engineers that handle a handful of projects, albeit very big projects, but this is also with the support of the foreign lending institutions. But I think there is great wisdom in the question of Senator Loren, because I think that is how, even on a smaller scale, how locally funded projects should be done. From the planning stage to the budgeting stage to the procurement to the implementation and monitoring stage, we should find a way to mirror the processes in the foreign assisted projects and apply them to the locally funded projects. And that would mean, obviously, involving all the district engineering offices, all the regional offices. No? So yun po, and I think that is part of what we want to do, no, as the new team begins the rollout of the reforms moving forward. Thank you po.
Galing. Oo, kaya, yes. Oo, kaya nga eh. So, magaling yung mga yan. Kaya, hindi, magkagaling utak. Magaling. Kaya, magaling yung dalawa kong yan eh. Kaya ako makulit ha, magaling yung mga nasa likod eh. NEDA at ERC yan eh. Oo. Kambal utak. Sige. Okay. International institutions can do sampling of all. Pwede natin subukan sa 2026, di ba? Para, at saka pwede nyong i-bid out and manage the third-party auditors. So, maski na maliit lang yung ating foreign assisted group, iilan, i-bid out nyo, i-monitor. Oo. Sayang eh. Kasi kung
Yes, ma'am, we
nangyayari sa bansa may maaayos, di i-emplo natin yung maayos. Kung di kaya ng maliit na grupo yung maayos, at least iilang project maayos. Di ba? And then I take note
Thank
of
you for
your
that, ma'am.
answer. Tama si Senator Ping mula sa simula na lahat ng projects naman ay dapat dumaan either sa RDC at may feasibility study at hindi naman sapat na may request ng LGU kasi maaling yung request niya hindi naman na-vet. Kaya kailangan may feasibility study talaga. Yun.
We absolutely agree, Mr. Chairman, Senator Loren, we agree.
Isa pang napansin ko, multi-year projects. Kung hindi amend ng senator, pupunta yung congressman sa amin o yung mayors, hindi magkukusa ang ahensya, hindi lang kayo at unfinished siya. Or, ang liit-liit ng ilalagay ng DPWH, hindi na matutuloy, bitin siya. Bakit ganun? It's a multi-year project of the department. Dapat, maski wala kaming intervention na amendment, kayo na ang kusa, tinatapos nyo. Kaya tuloy, all over the country, either vertical or horizontal structure or roads leading to hinterland areas, natitigil. Bakit kami kailangan mag-amend ng something nanggagaling naman sa inyo sa region o sa central na maayos naman para sa taong bayan? Kung hindi, napakaliit ng ilalagay sa NEP. Pero, ang lalaking budget, yung mga hindi pinag-isipan at may sponsor or proponent. Pero yung multi-year, lalapit sa akin yung LGU or congressman or even the agency, ang liit ng linagay sa multi-year, ma'am, kailangan to kasi, ano yun, mayowa, etc., etc. Bakit ganyan? Basta, maliit, ganon. Ang hirap parang wala talagang planning. Very arbitrary.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tama po kayo, Mr. Chairman, tama po again si Senator Loren. And this is something we really want to correct. And in fact, this was one of the first conversations I had with the new Undersecretary for Planning, that in the planning stages, in the budgeting stages, we must really prioritize projects that remain to be unfinished, incomplete projects. Kailangan po, kumbaga po, in the hierarchy of projects na dapat pondohan given limited funds, dapat po inuunang pondohan yung mga hindi pa tapos. Hindi putol na tulay, putol na kalip, bitin na building na munisipyong walang second floor, baka lang. And I think marami pong putol na tulay. In fact, I saw several already in my less than 2 months in DPWH. Bitin po.
Bridge to nowhere.
Hindi nga, Mr. Chairman, hindi nga po bridge to nowhere. Bridge to somewhere, pero, for example po, meron po kaming pinuntahan sa Arayat. May inimbestigahan kaming flood control doon, no? Tapos, dinaga kami nung isang mayor sa isang bridge. Putol po yung bridge, kalahati. Kalahati tapos, kalahati wala. 10 years na pong putol, Mr. Chairman. 10 years. So, kaya nga po ngayon, nagkukumahugo kami, naghahanap po kami ng savings para po sana mapondohan namin yung bridge na yun sa Arayat at iba pang mga bridges all over the country na bitin. So, I mean, this is a recurring problem. It's very, very arbitrary. There's no rhyme or reason why this project gets this much, this project gets a small amount, and that needs to change.
There is rhyme and reason. Kung sinong malapit sa kusina, Halloween na sila. Kung sino malapit sa kusina, kung sino hindi humihingi or humihinging hindi nabibigyan, ayun.
Nabibitin.
Kaya hindi pwede. Arbitrary
It cannot be
Dapat
arbitrary
may
po.
siyensya.
And it needs to be, needs-based po talaga. And I think the primary need, sabi nga po ng Pangulo sa akin, let's use all the money we have remaining to just finish unfinished projects. To complete unfinished projects. Yun po ang pinaka-importante. Thank you po.
Sen. Lauren, that's also the advice that we gave DOH doon sa HFEP Center JV kasi ang daming unfinished health centers, rural health centers, even hospital, sayang. Nakabitin na for many years. Sayang.
So, actually, ipakompute natin, ayan, sa kada ahensya ng gobyerno, ang mga unfinished or tapos pero unused. Nako, ilang trilyon yan. Sinayang natin ang pera. Hindi lang, to be fair, hindi lang DPWH. Okay, I was just meeting with, housing, dati chair ka, James. Si Sec Aliling, bago siya. Sinabi niya, sabi ko, bigyan mo nga akong listahan ng NHA projects. NHA, natapos yung mga bahay, yung intended beneficiaries, ayaw tumira sa bahay dahil malayo, bakit pinagawan? Pero pinasukan na ng informal settlers na hindi naman otorisadong tumira doon. So hindi naman nila mabigay sa informal settlers na tumitira sa bahay sa intended, makukuha naman sila. So we have a squatter problem in NHA and the intended beneficiaries are still squatters or informal settlers. So, if I may, there's really so much wastage systems loss, substandard, unutilized, underutilized by running by the trillions of pesos, Mr. Chair. So I agree with you, whether it's DPWH or DOH, which you build, or DepEd classrooms, tapusin natin or bridges to somewhere, but maybe the proponent already is not in office, right? Ganun eh. So, that's I won't say yun lang, that's what I noticed. I have to amend the multi-year. Trabaho yan ng ahensya. Lalapit sa amin, hindi po na pondo, nasabihin ng district engineer at sa region, hindi po kami narinig sa central, kayo na lang po pag-asa namin para umabot yung kalsada doon. alam yata ni Alpruto ang ibig ko sabihin. O ganon. Tapos, lalagyan ng token. Ang liit-liit amount, 10 million, 20 million para matapos. Sabi ko, siguro maski 100 years akong senator, hindi matatapos. Kasi hindi ako mihingi eh. Sabi ko, kami nga ngayon, kung hindi na kami allowed mag-amend, kundi institutional, wala na. So, yung kalsada, hindi matatapos, kundi kami allowed mag-amend. Yeah. So, it's incumbent upon the agency, not just DPWH, to finish what they started, whether the proponent is an incumbent or not. Kasi syempre, the fact na pinondohan, at hindi to mga flood control, talagang infra, na pondohan, kailangan tuloy-tuloy hanggang matapos. Huwag kami intayin mag-amend. Yun.
Mr. Chairman, we
Sige,
could not
thank you.
agree we could not agree more with the honorable senator's observations. Kung kailangan ang trabaho po na ayan siya, tapusin kung ano ang inumpisahan niya. Unfortunately, hindi po ganoon ang nangyayari. Hopefully that will change now. Opo. Maraming salamat po. Maraming salamat.
Well, just Friday is the submission.
Yes,
Secretary.
Mr. Chairman, if I may be allowed to just recap or summarize po what we need to submit just to
Yes,
be
yes,
sure.
please.
So we will be submitting po additional stationing for the initially identified projects and also additional validation and justification if we are able to find the justification and the validation. But we will also add the new projects po that also do not have the required detail. No, I think roughly about 1,500, if I'm not mistaken, additional projects. No, 14. Opo. So we will strive to do that by Friday, Mr. Chairman. Again, I will reiterate, kung hindi po validate, ma-justify at mabigyan ng detalye yung mga line item, please po, we give the committee the liberty to please remove those projects from the list of projects in the DPWH 2026 budget. Second po, by tomorrow, we will submit po the request of the Honorable Senator Ligarda for the list of the districts under the resubmitted NEP, revised NEP, and also whatever the terminology is, given what was done. Yes, of course. Of course po. We will send the document po to the chair, copy furnished, Senator Ligarda. And then we will give the request of Senator Marcoleta for the apples-to-apples comparison of the HGABs 23, 24, 25 to compare with the already submitted 26.
Remember, we talked about the 2025 possible savings. You were supposed to submit per district the projects where there are issues, and the issues that have issues with the implementation sa contractors that you may have the power to terminate. So we talked about 2025 projects funded. Either you renegotiate or you have the power to terminate if they are flood control projects or asphalting or whatever projects na questionable sa implementation ng mga contractor. And are you suggesting to terminate? Will you terminate? And if you will not terminate, what is the remedial measure you will do why you will not terminate? In short, we're putting everyone on stricto tayo ngayon, hindi pa 2026. But wala pa kayo ng 2020 pag ginawa yung GAA 2025, pero pinapanood nyo sila ngayon at husayon yan. To terminate natin, hindi natin terminate, pero repeat job ito, or sige, terminate, may savings tayo. So I leave it to your better judgment, but maybe a list of that so we can also study for possible savings.
Mr. Chairman, Senator, what we can submit by Friday, I think, is the list of those that are either unimplementable already or that have been terminated already. As for those that we can terminate, this might be a little tricky because we still need to talk to the, obviously, to the Office of the Solicitor General to determine that, and that will require, again, we're talking about, I don't know, like 20,000 projects for this year that we have to sift through. That might not be possible for Friday, ma'am, but we...
Whatever you can for Friday. At hindi na kailangan OSG, you have the power kasi sa Government Procurement Act, nakita naman nyo eh. At saka kung na-terminate niya yung iba, yung ibang mukhang questionable, meron kayong power to terminate kung linoloko tayo at saka sinabi na ni Presidente,
Yes.
ibaba yung dupa, pero ang sigil pa rin niya, let's say, sa construction material sa bridge na ito,
Yes.
triple. Kaya mo yun. Hindi kailangan ng OSG yun. Oo.
Ma'am, kasi well, obviously for those that are already contracted, that was already the basis of the budget, and the contract price was already established under the old or the existing cost of materials. So there are clearly legal issues there, so we will need to talk to the OSG about that. But for those that we have terminated or about to terminate for cause, we can provide that list by Friday.
Perhaps we can generate reports since from your district engineers or from our people on the ground, yung mga sumbong sa Senado na mga dapat i-terminate. I mean, without looking at political color, of course. Oo.
Yes,
Baka
we can
meron, yeah.
marami pong sumbong. Kung
Yeah,
sumbong lang po ang
actually,
pag-uusapan. No, sa sumbong sa Pangulo po, I think 20,000 na yung nagsumbong doon. No, but again, that will require some time to sift through. But finally, Mr. Chairman, ma'am, the last thing we will submit, which is very important, is the revised CMPD, the revised cost of materials, and then the estimated potential savings for 2026. So we will submit all of those by Friday, Mr. Chairman, Senator.
Nomenclature that's allowed in the GAA for school buildings and classroom that will still fall under your department.
Okay, yes, ma'am. So
Yes.
which is multipurpose buildings / school building. Yes.
Oo,
We will
kung
provide
ano yung
that as
gamit,
well.
kasi hindi bawal yun.
Opo.
Para wag nang ililipat, tapos babalik.
Tama po.
Yeah, mas efficient.
Tama po.
Yeah.
Thank you
And,
so much po.
Sa lahat ng nanonood po, hindi po namin kayo, sa mga tanong po namin na inaaral namin ang budget, hindi po namin kayo pinahirapan. It's really, we take seriously the mandate and yung pronouncements ni Presidente na ayusin, limited ang fiscal space. Sakita natin, dahil sa eagle eyes ng chair, naparami. Diba? Naparami ang classroom, naparami ang kilometro ng FMR, naparami sa pagtutulungan ng lahat. So, we're here to help. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the patience of Sec Dizon and the whole team. Mr. Chair, salamat.
Thank you. There being no further questions, the budget of the Department of Public Works and Highways is now deemed submitted for plenary's consideration, subject to the discussion and the submission of documents requested. So maraming salamat, Secretary. Thank you very much.
Maraming salamat po. Thank you so much.
The hearing is suspended.
Thank you, sir. Thank you po.